It's Paul Antonelli here with another episode of the Ideal Business Podcast. I've been, the last few episodes, I've talked a little bit about the concept of risk, which is one of the criteria for determining how ideal your business is. And what I'm going to talk about today is some very cool tools that if you utilize them effectively, can have a big impact on the risk profile of your business if it's something that you're aiming to reduce. So I might just, the best way to get into it is to get into these tools and have a bit of a discussion on each of these as we go through them. Obviously, one of the areas for which introduces risk in a business is, and it's something that as business owners we're very conscious of, not overextending ourselves, is employing staff. There's a lot of costs associated with employing staff, right from the recruitment process, bringing them on board, the training process, and then what if they don't work out, your time investment, all that sort of stuff. So I've got, for most of my approaches when I bring people on board, not always, but when you're sort of looking to have a bit more control over the process of engaging people, it's really worth looking closely at outsourcing and contracting. And they're just important to understand what that means. We have in our businesses, we've got staff all over the world. So there's staff in Australia, we've got team members in Canada, in the UK, in the Philippines, all around the place. And it's just been the way that we've operated since the beginning. And one of the ideas behind this approach is to, when you look at a particular role in the business, if you determine that it's more about getting things done, like specific project-driven activity or things that you need to, it may not be something that you need all the time, then outsourcing could be a really good way to go about it. One of the platforms to use, and we used it very effectively and continue to do so, it's upwork.com. That platform enables you to post a job up and then people bid on it. You can set some parameters around it. And then you've got very clear definition around the expectations, both from your expectations as the person wanting to get something done and the person doing the work. And so it's a really good platform to outsource, and you can pretty much do anything. And when I talk to business owners, often they get stuck with minor activities or small tasks that no one else in their team can do, or they don't have a team large enough. It's really quite a simple process to outsource those sorts of activities. And so this is a different approach to directly employing team members. And as we know, the difference with this approach, with direct, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our recruitment process. It'll be something that I'll talk about in this podcast, how to go about doing that. But this is, when you engage people in these processes, you do it in a way that's called a fast recruitment. So you don't spend lots of time, lots of interviews, going through, reading CVs. It's just not worth it. So you sort of start in 1 week, and then within the week, you've actually got someone engaged and someone kicked off. And so it's a very different process. It takes less of your time, less money, and of course there's less risk associated. And another idea to consider is, as you're growing and expanding your business, and this is where the contracting side might come into play. You might need someone, for example, in the IT space, a business analyst or IT manager, but you don't really need someone full time. So how do you bridge that? So a great mechanism is to look at a part-time role, and ideally you'd contract someone through an entity rather than direct employment. And you might say, look, I only need you for a day a week, 8 hours a week, or 16 hours a week, or 12 hours a week, or whatever it is. This gives you access to high caliber talent without having to have the onboarding and the carrying costs, even though you may not need them. And so I don't think I've actually employed anyone. I don't think I actually have any full-time employees across my business. I don't think anyone should work 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. It's just too much. And so we've built our entire business model and our framework for team members to work 2, 3, 4 days a week. I think that's actually what most people want nowadays. And so it's a bit of a shared risk model. And if you can bring people on board in different roles and connect the payments, a large part of the payments, to the outcomes. I know you can't do that with all roles, but there's a lot of roles that you can do that. You can have defined KPIs and outcomes, so you can pay a base retainer, and then you can have bonus or incentive payments. Once again, that reduces your risk, where someone just gets on board and puts in the hours but achieves no income. So I found that if you use this sort of an approach, and once again, you can't do it for all activity, but if you use this sort of approach, you tend to repel people that are not outcome focused and attract performers. People go, yep, I'm happy to do it on that basis. They're confident in their ability to get it done, and you'll attract those sorts of people. As I mentioned, Upwork.com is a really good platform for doing this, and you can pretty much get anything outsourced anywhere around the world. And so the easiest way to do it is set yourself up an account and trial it out. Pick some simple projects, something that might take a week. You might want to spend a couple of $100 on it, and then see how you go with it. So built up a business. In our businesses, we built loyal team members that have extensive experience about our business, and they sort of came on board through this sort of process. So this becomes a really good process to sort of a fast recruit, low risk engagement strategy. And then after 3 or 4 months, if it's looking like they're a good fit for your business, they get things done, then you might want to look at how you can change that nature of engagement from an outsourcing process to more of a contract arrangement or an employment arrangement. It is interesting because I think I talk to a lot of businesses who've looked at this process, and they typically go, oh, it doesn't work that well. I need people in the office. I need to see what they're doing. It's not, we have team members that we've engaged through this process and now are fundamental to our business. They've been around for many years, and they cover areas such as bookkeeping, finance, IT, marketing, sales, administration, reception functions, all those sorts of all key functions across the business. And so they become now permanent long-term staff with us, but we're initially engaged in the process I've described to you. And this enables you to also, if you need a bit more capacity, but you don't know if it's going to be ongoing and you don't want to take the risk of employing people, then this is a good way to bring on some capacity in a non-committed, low-cost, fast way. So hopefully that makes sense about the recruitment. So if you're not outsourcing, and contracting is a really good way to go about growing the business and expanding, but in a much, much less risk model. A second tool that is really important to reduce risk, and I'll probably give you an example of a car or a plane or a helicopter, any of these things. In a car, we have a dashboard. In a plane, they've got a lot of buttons and gauges and a dashboard as well. And they do this in anything that needs instant feedback so that you can make adjustments and know where you're at. It's actually really important. And one of the reasons for these dashboards and this feedback information is to make things safer and to reduce the risk, clearly. So risk events often occur because of the lack in a business framework, lack of visibility or data, where it's not really noticed. It's unnoticed for a long period of time. And then the more down the track the event unfolds and unwinds, the more difficult it may be to get hold of it, grapple it, and make some changes. So as with many things that can tend to be a problem, the earlier it can be identified, gives you more opportunity and more time to get it sorted and get it back on track. So it's really important to reduce risk in a business. You want to see when something is not right. And a really good way, we manage our businesses by statistics and by dashboards, is having a visual format for this. I've worked with a lot of business over the years, and it surprises me how few actually have statistics, really detailed statistics across their business. If they do have statistics, often they're not putting them into a dashboard or a graphical format, so it's quite hard to actually see what's going on. You have to read it as opposed to see it. So the important thing is to track statistics. We have a whole range of different stats that we track, and we can share that with you. And it's probably the ones that, the way I would consider for you, things that you consider quite critical for you and your business. They're the statistics you want to track and you want to put in a graph. And so you want to be able to see it. And we track stats very, very closely. So when looking at tracking stats in a business, here's some key steps that I'd recommend. Firstly, you've got to track the stats weekly. As I mentioned before, we do stats from Friday to Thursday, and all metrics are measured on a weekly basis for this period. We do, typically business cycles might be a monthly cycle. The problem with monthly cycles when you're looking at different aspects of your business, it's too long. If something's taken place in a month and you start reviewing it within the first week or the second week of the first month, the following month, it's too late. You've already had something that's had a negative impact, or it's not going quite right. So it's important that you're doing stats on a weekly basis. It's also important that you're measuring statistics right across the business. Right, this is right across the business, not just financial metrics. So you look at executive, strategic, your people and productivity, your marketing, sales, financial, obviously production, how you're getting work out there, quality control, lead generation. This is the only way to fully understand really where your business is at. So you need to have not just track some of the core ones and the obvious ones, which is profitability and revenue, but tracking statistics across your business is really important. It's shouldn't be one person's job to do this. The way we've got it organised, every member every team member actually has a set of KPIs, products they need to produce, and statistics. And it's their responsibility for tracking, recording, and reviewing their own statistics and reporting them. So it becomes part of the culture and the standard operating basis for the business. And you find that you just stop talking about lots of things. Without stats, we just talk, and people give ideas and their impressions and I feel on this and feel on that. I have a saying, which is I don't believe what I hear, I only believe what I see, and that's where statistics really come in their own. So what you might want to start is picking 5 to 7 stats. And that provide the status for each area of the business. So you might say, what's a key stat for marketing, for sales, for productivity, for delivery, for quality, and then just start. And as a business owner, you can really quickly assess how the business is tracking. And the reason, obviously, this is a risk reduction mechanism because you'll be able to have good visibility, and you'll know if something's not really on track. And as I mentioned, it's important that these stats go into a graph. If you have them in spreadsheets, it's very hard to actually work out what's going on. You can't see trends. You're not able to really see if something's going up or going down. You have to actually read the information, which is very, very different. And with statistics, it's great to have the actual statistics, but then you're comparing them against your targets. So by setting targets, how are you going against what you wanted to be doing? And you can do this right across the business, which is really important. And if you can link all your team members, even external suppliers, when people work for you, whether they're marketing agencies, for example, or people doing sales activity, define very clear KPIs and get them to report the statistics against the agreed targets. And we have a framework in the business where all these stats are shared with the team on a weekly basis. So everyone in the team knows how everyone else is going and how the business is tracking. So it's really important to be able to, and that's where a dashboard that people have access to is very powerful. So if you can develop a bit of a culture of managing by statistics, what it will do is create sanity. When you're not doing that, it's a little bit insane. You sort of got a whole bunch of, from my experience, you've got lots of people talking about this and this isn't working, this is not there. The only way that I can sort of really tell what's going on is by looking at the data and looking at the statistics. So it's a really good culture to develop. And for yourself as the business owner, it gives you a really good grip on how things are tracking. So that's sort of a couple of key tools for managing risk. I'd really encourage you to look really closely at these type of tools, because if you want to, and we can share more information about how to go about implementing these. These are really powerful tools. They obviously help other parts of the business as well, but they are a key reducer of risk and controller of risk in your business. So hopefully that's useful, and thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed that, some key data on those two areas. So to wrap out, it's really all about outsourcing contracting to reduce risks associated with engaging people, and then stats and dashboard for having great visibility and understanding where your business is at. All right, thanks for listening. Stay well. Ciao for now.